Okay, guys, time for an important topic. I'm going to talk about object-oriented programming and classes. Now, you already used classes, like our program is in this class program. Here is the file. You also know about console. Console is a class. If we go inside, it's static class console. Also, we talked about the math class and all the mathematic functions. But let's see how we can use a class. Now, most tutorial videos talk about some blueprint and the car has 4 wheels, and all this stuff. I am playing video games. I am not a car person, so I'm going to talk more about games and examples related to games. So let's have public static class, and then we have now a public and static. I am not going to explain in this video, but okay, we have the wizard. What can the wizard do? Well, the wizard can cast spells. If you remember from games like Diablo or like Baldur's Gate, you can have different spells like fire spells or ice spells or some other category. Now, I am not going to go into such details, but let's imagine we have and then we have fireball, and then we have something like this, and then we have console, and then we have red line, and then fireball. Okay. Now let's imagine we have also lightning. Let's say just lightning. Maybe it's chain lightning, maybe it's just lightning. It's up for you to determine. So we have the wizard, and now let's use our spells. Let's say, and then we have let's run our program and see what's going on. Okay. Now imagine that I am playing something like Baldur's Gate, and I have multiple wizards, or maybe I am playing multiplayer. I want to make sure that the warrior cannot cast spells and the wizard can cast spells. So we already defined here what the wizard can do, like cast these spells. Maybe we can define many other things, but let's keep things simple for now. We are not creating a full game. So you might think, okay, if I need another wizard, I'll do something like this. But then, you have to change the name. So, okay. But what if I define something like we talked about maybe define something like teleport. Okay, but now I need to copy paste this here and maybe we don't have so many wizards, but imagine we have enemies and we have 100 enemies. Are you going to change each enemy and modify it? Maybe, you know, there is some specific animation, you know, when the enemy dies, and you want to change this animation. So yeah, it becomes problematic. So if I want to create 100 enemies, wizards, or how to do this? Well, we already know what is a class, but let's see what is an object. Okay, so I'm going to remove this static and now we have another problem. An object reference is required for an static field method or property. Okay, so we no longer can do this, so we need to create an object. So we talked about variable types, and this is the type, and we call it wizard1 because we are going to create more wizards. And now we are saying, okay, by saying new, and we are instructing that we need a new wizard. Okay. Let's create a bunch of other wizards, maybe a second wizard. Okay. So we can do this, no problem. Okay. Let's say that each wizard, you know, when you create your character, usually the game asks you to write a name. Okay, in certain games, characters have their names, but in some games, you know, like in Diablo, you name your character. So let's say we have something like public string, and we have name. Okay. Now I'm going to explain also what is a constructor. Constructor is when you create a new object, you know, there is this function, which there is also the concept of default constructor. Now we are going to define our own constructor, and we are going to initialize the name to something we want. Now we talked about functions, and we have what's called input parameter. So I didn't say in that video that you can have default parameters, because you saw, like, immediately I get an error because this function expects. Let me display this one more time. There is no argument per so basically we talked about the constructor. It's like some function, and this function, you know, expects some parameter. And in order to avoid this error here, you can specify the default parameter. So let's demonstrate this. Now, since we have here name and we have here name, we talk about this name. So this means this name, not this name. And this name is equal to name. Okay, let's see. I'll define here some name for our wizard, and it's like this one, and also we need some way to output our name. So right line, and then we say wizard one name, and wizard, sorry, wizard 2. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the first one has this default parameter and the second one becomes wizard 2. So you can see these are two different objects, even though both, have the same things, like wizard. Then you have fireball, like lightning and name and teleport. Okay. Let me show here this one. Okay. But each has its own instance and can be modified. Maybe one dies, the other is still alive. So each object has a certain state independent of the other, but both objects have the same properties. So we have the wizard, and we know that we have lightning, and we have fireball. So I'm just going to say wizard 1, wizard 2. So this one has this one has this, but maybe this one has suffered some hit and has 80 hit points, but this one is still like at let's say 105 hit points. This has some name one. This has some different name, but they both share this here, and they both share the hit points. They both share some name property, and they are two different objects. Like imagine like some person, we are all human, but we have different names. Depending whether you are a disabled person or maybe some war veteran, but usually we have like one head, we have a heart, we have lungs, and we can breathe, we can talk, and all of this stuff which we relate to a human. But we are different people, each we are individuals, we are different persons. And the same is here, the same is valid for this example. So we have different wizards, but they have different properties. Now, I think this might sound confusing, and it took me quite some time to figure out why classes are useful, why we can use this, but in time you will see that this is a powerful concept, and you need to gain some experience to appreciate what this gives you. Of course, back in time, C didn't have classes, so some other programming languages don't have this concept, but C# is an object-oriented programming language. Now I'm not going to talk about memory management where this class is stored, because we talked about the stack, but here we are talking about reference types which are stored in a heap, which is a different structure. But that's all for now. and thanks for watching.